Because any college or anything, when students go, one of the things they should keep in mind is that, are you able to perform at your at your skill set or limit? Are you challenged? You have to be challenged. You should, if you once you start feeling comfortable at that point, that's done, over. Okay, that's you're not performing at your optimal thing. You have to be challenged all the time.
Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of ContraMinds. In today's episode, we are in conversation with Dr. Annapurni Subramaniam. Dr. Annapurni is the director of the Indian Institute of Astrophysics, Bangalore. Her research work focuses on star clusters, stellar evolution and population in galaxies, and Magellanic Clouds. In this episode, Professor Annapurni speaks to us about her childhood fascination with the night sky, her thoughts on a long-term vision for scientific research in India, and balancing leadership and contributor roles in projects with grace and humility. If you enjoy the work we do at ContraMinds, give us a rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can also send us what you think via Twitter. Our handle is @ContraMinds. So, without further ado, here is our conversation with Dr. Annapurni Subramaniam.
Professor Annapurni Subramaniam, thanks a ton for joining our podcast, and it's absolutely our privilege to have you as one of the special guests in this podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Looking forward to the conversation. Thank you, both Vignesh and Swami.
Thanks a lot. The first thing that I really got quite interested was the fact that, coming from a small village in Palakkad, and you got interested in, stars, and, I kind of read that, and some interviews that you had given. So, what is so romantic for you about space? People have been fascinated by this for years. So, what makes it so interesting and dominant for you in terms of what it does to our country? What does it do to the science that India is trying to build and becoming a space superpower?
Yeah, an interesting point. I would rather call it as my passion rather than romance, but I have been with it for quite some time, and it drives me again crazy. I mean, just to tell you that I was trying to solve something which it was occurring to my mind, and I could not take my mind out of that particular problem. So that is what is passion about, because if you give me 5 minutes break, I'll just go back to the problem and see whether it is working or not. So it is like that. It will not let me sleep. So that is what is passion about, and I would not mind sending sitting whole through the night looking at it. I will not feel tired. I'll be excited about it. So that is what is passion, and that is what has been driving me for the last 30 years or so. So I was growing up in Palakkad, and I think those days, in the countryside particularly, there were hardly any light pollution. So the night sky is so nice. Okay, and we had frequent power cuts, and Palakkad being very hot, you can't sit inside the house. You have to come out, and you have power cut, there's no power, there's absolute pitch darkness, nothing else to do. You can't look at anywhere except look at the sky. Okay, so you sit outside, enjoy talking. While talking, you keep looking at the sky, so you start watching things here, there. Why is the pattern like this? Someone will say a story, someone will say something else. Then you say, okay, let me go up and read up something about it. And those days there's no internet. You have to go to the library and pick up books and start reading it, and you may get some information, you may not get some information. So whatever you get, pick up and try very hard to understand. So I used to follow the constellations. I used to know that which constellations comes at what time of the sky, etc., and all that. So I used to be very, very passionate about it. Even the night, in the morning, I used to get up and watch. And also, there was Halley's Comet at that time, so 1987. So that also drove me. And particularly, I was interested because people would say, no, don't go and look at it, because it's going to give you bring you some bad omen and bad luck and things like that. So it's nothing like that. Why is it it's visible only sometime? What happens to it? What is it? Properties, etc. And I was a physics student, of course. You will ask questions, so that is what a physics student is trained to do. So I was very passionate about it, and when I got a chance to do a research in this topic, and that's it. That was my call. So I just took off, and there's no stop to it, and I still continue. I mean, as I said, it is really I'm really passionate about it. So the thing which is driving me passionate about it is also one more thing that in any other topics you see, it's like if you have to plot something, you will say something is known, and then you take that known to unknown, okay, and then you try to solve it. But in astrophysics and astronomy, it's actually an unknown versus unknown. So there's so much of unknown out there, and you have to keep an open mind and go out and do it. So that it'll put you in completely totally uncomfortable unknown scenario, and then you have to come up and solve it, and that has to be fitting into the framework of physics and mathematics. So that's something really challenging, and that really drives me passionate about it. And the other thing is, astronomy also drives the science and technology, for that matter, to the limits. Because you're taking it to the unknown regime, you will be demanding something which is not known, and people will be asking you, why the heck do you want this precision, or why accuracy, or whatever, you why do you want to do this? I mean, there's nothing, you don't really want it otherwise. But this drives you to completely different regime, which brings a lot of I mean, advantage to the society and community. But it's not an overnight or immediate returns. So astronomy is not immediate returns. It is like slogging, and but over a time scale, it is like you're sowing the seed now. You have to let that I mean, it is let it sprout, grow, and then nourish, and then it will give a lot of fruits. But you have to wait. So it is not like you put sow a seed right now and tomorrow you'll get fruits. No, that's not. It's not an overnight thing. It's something which takes, and even the projects in astronomy, for that matter, takes ages. Any telescope project, JWST is launched now. How long it took? So it's not like, even if you build a software, it's not going to be implemented tomorrow. So you can't see the light. So it's a kind of a different ball game, but it's really challenging, and uh, I mean, I'm passionate about it.
So, how did you, something you got passionate about when you were very young, and today you are a recognized expert globally in astrophysics. So, what is the route that you took to convert your passion into being an expert? So, what is it that you did over years that allowed you to become so good in what you do? So, what is it that you did, which I think would be interesting to hear?
It's difficult to put it in words, but let me start by saying that okay, when I started doing research, I had no idea what I wanted to do research on. So you start with working with a guide, and then the guide, takes you through a journey where the most important thing during a PhD is a training period, and it gives you opportunity to explore and understand and find the area in which you would like to pursue more. Okay, so there's a lot of topics. You can start with sun, you can go to study stars, galaxies, or a theoretical, you could do experimental. All options are open, and I did my PhD at the Indian Institute of Astrophysics, and that the important aspect of this particular institute is that we have large variety of people working in large variety of topics. So you can go and talk to anyone, pick up whichever one you are interested in. So that freedom is here. So once I started working on, I realized that I like to work on stars and their evolution. So how they evolve, understanding how to, because stars are born and they die, but once human lifetime is not enough to study the whole lifetime of that, right? You won't see it. So you are in a blip of maybe a fraction of a second in the lifetime. So what happens is, how do you understand that? And there are so many nuances, so many physics goes into the stars. So how do you sit very far away and then try to understand how they form, evolve? What are the fundamental physics behind it, right? So that was very interesting, so I took it up. But beyond certain after certain time, like I have not stuck to one topic, I just keep moving to other topics as well. So I worked on many topics. So whenever I find that, a question, a science question comes, and I think that I feel that it's important to be addressed, then I pick up tools, pick up techniques, move on, and try to address that particular problem. And I do not know exactly what is driving me, but you will plan in the morning. I'm a planning freak because I have limited time in hand and I need to do a thing. So before I come to office, it's there in my mind, this has to be done. But you know what happens if you are very interested in a topic, just like I said before, your mind is very difficult to control. You will go to that problem and start solving it. And after a couple of hours, I realized that, look, this was not supposed I was supposed to do. I was supposed to do something else. So I put my head to it. No, it'll not go. So, certain topics are like that. So I have understood such topics, and I know that I can't help it. I have to put my significant of time on that particular topic. So that is how things it's been driving me. So I do jump from topic to topic depending upon what science question I feel has to be addressed, and hence I continue. So it's not that there are many other reasons why I cannot still continue on one, because we have limited resources. Because if I want to have a science question which requires much more resources, I can't get it also. So there will be several science questions, whichever is possible to solve, I take it up and move forward. So maybe that's the reason why. Uh, I've been continuing and been able to contribute in multiple fields as well.
So talk to me about the evolution of stars. That's something that I also read whenever whatever little research that we did. You actually said uh, a very interesting statement. You said stars are great nuclear combinations, right? So you talked about it, saying that the amount of elements it throws out, the how it evolves, how it dies. This is something that that you talk about. So what is it that helps you study it, and what is it that we can learn out of this, and therefore what impact does it have on discovery and science in a topic like this?
Yeah. So see, basically, universe is our lab, right? Because everything is around us, and you need to understand how they are formed, etc. A little bit of things are very close to you, so that you can go and touch them and do the experiment. But most of it is beyond your touch. So you need to somehow smartly gather the information from them to infer what is going on there. So the very beginning thing is the elements, the material, the matter around you. So how did it form? So when you look at that, Big Bang did not produce all those elements. So how do the elements form? And those elements are extremely required for the solar system to have formed, the Earth to have formed, and the life in that has to be formed, right? So who made all these elements? So when you ask these questions, then I mean, very important research happened in the last century, understanding nuclear fusion and how elements are made. So we now understand that after all this understanding nuclear physics, everything, we now understand that the inside the stars are basically nuclear reactors. So there the elements are formed. And these elements, how do we know they are forming the elements? I mean, the first one is the sun, where the hydrogen four hydrogen actually fuse to become a helium nuclei, and that is what is happening there. And we know it, I mean, from the energetics point of view, we concluded that in the beginning, but then we now also detect neutrinos, which are basically the products of the fusion, which is basically the proof of it. And now when also we see the supernovae explode, we see the material which is processed coming out. But these are the extremes. But when there are other smaller stars which don't explode supernovae, but then they eventually throw the material out into the interstellar medium. So basically, the stars are the manufacturing plants of all these elements we see. And also it depends on, like, when before the solar system was formed, how many stars lived and polluted the environment, that is contributing to what we have right now. And that is very local. It may not be the same everywhere. So we have, I mean, I study the nearby galaxies to study how the chemistry is, across the galaxy, etc. So basically, what the astrophysics is very big puzzle. So you have to put in, small pieces here and there to to stitch together a story. So if it was one missing link is there, it is, you sometimes assume, but that assumption has implications on it. So coming to what I did for my thesis was, I mean, to give you a very simple example, if you look at the sun's picture, you can see something like boiling gas kind of a thing, right? So that is because the outer part of the sun is convective. Like when you boil water in a kettle, after some time, you can start bubbles coming out. So you can imagine the kind of gas, very hot gas bubbling. So that is what is happening in the surface of the sun. Now if you look at more, but the inside the they are all gas, so all stars are blobs, okay. So this gas which is actually going up and down is what you're seeing in the sun outside, but inside the gas is not bubbling like that. But in slightly more massive stars, the outside doesn't bubble, the inside bubbles. Yeah, so it is slightly different because how the energy is produced, it depends on that. So when the inside is bubbling, then your mixing is to be taken care. So whatever process you have inside or wherever, the physics has to I mean, take care of all these processes to, to predict how much is the energy production, what is, how much reaction is taking place, how much this has got this much of matter, how much it will last as a star. So all these calculations one has to do. So my work was to find out how much of mixing is happening in the interior, to figure out that much of mixing will depend on, the hydrogen is being converted to helium. Now if you have more hydrogen which can be mixed, then you will have more time to convert into helium. So basically the age matters, and the core of whatever it when it is the sun becomes a red giant, it has got an inner helium core. That mass of the core decides how much is the lifetime beyond that.
So what's the lifetime of sun?
So it is right now it is about 4.5 billion years. So this is like a middle age for it. So
Okay,
yeah.
interesting. 4.5 billion years.
Yeah. So it'll live a lot more than that. So this is the age as we know for the sun. Yes. So sun-like stars live for very long time. This is really long. Yeah. But if you look at very massive stars, 20 times the mass of the sun, etc., or 25 times, it'll live only 1,000 of the less than 1,000 times the 1 million year, or to 10 million years to 20 million years it lives. So it's a very short lifespan. So the numbers in astronomy and astrophysics is something which is completely, I mean, people it takes time to understand. Yeah, times, all the units like time scales, the length scales, everything becomes really difficult to, yeah. Gets stretched quite a bit.
Right. So, just to, if I can just zoom out for a little bit, if you look at the way the talent moves in today's world, historically, if we have seen some of the best young minds and some of the most seasoned or experienced researchers end up at a small cluster of institutions, predominantly in the West, right? So even at the heart of the LIGO project was somewhere with MIT, with Rainer Weiss and all those things. So you have a very distinguished scientific research practices taking place at these small network of universities at Harvard, MIT, Caltech, all these sort of places. So from your vantage point, given that today you are the director of the Indian Institute of Astrophysics, uh, my question is, what might be some short-term and long-term strategies that you would recommend, where we also have certain institutions in India, for example, operating at that level of reputation, scientific excellence, and research opportunities, and a hothouse for talent in a certain sense.
Yeah. So see, the most important thing is, you have to be able to take on ambitious stuff, okay, in the mind as well as in the practice, like in terms of experiments. So as I said, There is, if you want to do something which is like the cutting edge, you have to push it to the limits and you have to challenge everything you have. And the framework over here, it is not allowing us to do that. Because in institutions, in India, like particularly like the government institutions, you have to follow so many norms, so many things. By the time you really want an instrument to be built, someone would have built it and done it and dusted over. We it's very difficult to push projects through. And yeah, and that is with respect to experiments. But even if see now, see what happened, like some 30 years back, and how science is done these years are different now. The whole concept, or rather, you need large network to do, and large group of people to work together seamlessly. And when you are mixing, or rather talking to people across the institutions, and the kind of participation you need to do, you need to have resources that much with you as well. And access to things are still a problematic stuff. As I mentioned earlier, access to instruments, access to bigger telescopes, we don't have. So if I find a problem which I need to be pursuing, I need to go and collaborate with somebody, and then take it forward and then pursue it. It is not very easy. So you have to other access some instrumentation or some facility outside, or you have to have the facility within the country, or set it up. Okay. So the institution building as such, you need to have people who can actually either you create or nourish and build very very what do you say, challenging minds or bright minds which can solve it. But you can very well see it, people drain off to certain pockets. That is because you are able to do what you want to do there and challenge it to much higher level. Because any college or anything, when students go, one of the things they should keep in mind is that, are you able to perform at your at your skill set, or limit? Are you challenged? You have to be challenged. You should, if you once you start feeling comfortable at that point, that's done, over. Okay, that's you're not performing at your optimal thing. You have to be challenged all the time. The environment has to challenge you all the time. But that doesn't happen here.
So, is it a challenge of what you said first, which is having an ambitious, goal versus lack of resources, or is it both? How what do you see as a fundamental problem?
See, I don't think we lack talent. I don't think we lack ambition. But converting the talent and the ambition to reality and completing the fruitfulness is lacking. Be it in any place, I think it happens in industry everywhere. This is the problem, because you are not able to it involves certain amount of risk, certain amount of things to shortcut, because you don't know how to do it. Look at the it's not impossible, but then you just need to make sure that, yes, I want to do it, and and everything else should support you in that endeavor. That doesn't happen.
Right. Is it? But just to follow up on that, would you say it because we are more of an up? We have a historical tendency, if I might say, to really have young people focus on applied sciences more than pure sciences, because if you look at it, a lot of the common narrative is that every young person should strive to become an engineer. If you're talking about non-biology related fields, hey, you should go do software engineering, hey, you should be an electrical engineer. So do we have a craze or a monomania within the country where we are valuing applied sciences more than pure sciences?
I'm not quite sure about it, because we do have talent people who, even if some, I mean, if you look at some fraction of the people who are in academia, who have come back to basic sciences after doing engineering. Okay, they've identified that this is my talent, and people who want to do go and do an engineering in IIT or something like that, go ahead to do a PhD in basic sciences and continue to do basic. That's not stopping them. But what I'm trying to say is that the institution building, it requires to retain people, very bright people here, and challenge it and do it. So the how you go about doing it is a bit different here compared to how it is done outside. So there is a big difference there. And earlier, we had, I think, more than 50 years back, we had terrific people in the country who were doing excellent science. C.V. Raman, S.N. Bose, J.C. Bose, everybody. So there were a lot of people. They could do it. They could drive it. But that's not happening now. So basic sciences need a lot more push. And as I earlier said, also the way it is done, then you could actually independently or single-handedly you could drive things there. But right now it is not. It's not like that. It is like the LIGO, the gravitational wave detection, the huge number of people involved in it. But I'm glad that a lot of I mean, there was a big Indian contribution to it, but not in everything. Like the imaging of black hole, we were not part of it. We don't have any facilities in that wavelength range to contribute to it. So it is, you don't like it's like I sometimes relate what I do with my what I learned in singing also. Like my father used to tell me that you need to practice every day. It's not that you're going to have concert every next day. But somebody comes and asks you for a concert, you can't say, hey, hello, hold on, I have to practice and come back for your concert. You can't say that. Similarly, if some progress is suddenly happening in the terms of science and basic discoveries, you need to have your resources ready. You can't say that, hold on, you can't discover now, let me bring up my resources up, then we will discover. That doesn't happen.
Is do you think this is happening because people who, let's call them the money people and not the, whatever they are, right? Do you think people who hold, who are allocating these resources, are they short sighted, or do they not see potential, or do you think that they are investing in something that they think will bring a better ROI for something else? Why do you think this is happening?
No, that is because you don't have a long term plan. Because planning is very important. So what is that you're planning for? If you just plan for a few years, it's not enough. You need to plan for 20, 10 years, 20 years. What is your long term vision? And then fix your each and every step to reach that vision. Okay, you cannot predict what happens in the next 30 years. That doesn't mean you can't plan. You have to plan and also keep modifying it as and when you climb up, right? Because the international scene keep changing. But you have to have a plan and work towards it. And this normally happens in the US. The other nations also have this decadal vision. We don't have such decadal visions.
So, give me an example of a decadal vision that you have seen it work. So, can you give us an example for us to visualize how they thought about it 10, 15 years or 20 years back, and how the fruition of that thinking is benefiting, the US or any other country? Can you give us a example?
Yeah, so JWST, which is launched now, uh, it was supposedly a precursor for the next one for the this thing HST. So Hubble Space Telescope was launched in 1990s. There were a lot of the repair missions carried out, and some of the instruments got changed as well. So it is working for 30 years now. It's in a low Earth orbit, but it's 30 years is quite a bit of time. So the next one in the infrared was planned in the middle of 2000, I think, or I think early 2000 itself. But there were a lot of delays and a lot of the cost escalation was quite a bit, and the detectors they bought did not work, and they have to buy a lot more things and all sorts of things. There are serious problems with the power arrays and things like that, the solar arrays and etc. But in the last decadal survey, they had rated it high and pumped in, decided that no, it should be done. They decided it, and because the scientific community felt that it has to be done at a higher priority, then the funding goes to that because it's the decadal vision. puts it as the highest priority. So once the scientific community, it's a very detailed review process goes on, and then once you have it, you once the scientific community says that this is what it should be done, then the funding agencies support it, and then you move on to that doing that. So there's a huge amount of responsibility on the scientific community as well. It is very highly competitive. So it is good for both sides, right? Because you have to push someone to think to bring it to the country, to the international scene, and then push it forward. So you have to be at the top of the world, right? And then once you are convinced, and even the referee and all the committee for the decadal vision, it's a big committee reviewing everything. So they are also convinced. Then the funding agencies have lesser problems in going through all these reviews, etc. Right? And then the funding comes in, and they will look at various things, like what is how the country will develop, how the technology in the country will develop, how other industry partnerships in the country will develop. So everything they will look at. So apart from how the execution of the project, etc. So that is now completed, and now it is this put on orbit. Now the other thing which was held given top priority, but which it could not complete, was the 30-meter telescope, but India is a partner to it. So hopefully we will see the light, because the NSF, sorry, the decadal 2020 is given it higher priority. So I think this process is very important, and that gives you a long-term vision. And that, like as I said, you will be prepared, and you will know that where the internationally things are moving. Are you way behind, or are are you going to compete in this direction? Are you going to put your resources in this direction? If yes, why? So everybody will be convinced by that. So I think something like that is really important to keep up the resources, and keeping us ready to be doing discoveries in the contemporary fields or upcoming areas. So that's what I feel.
Great. Which brings me to one question. You talked about the 30-meter telescope, and I want to talk about the complexity of missions that you have been involved in, which is, the in these kinds of missions, there is a whole diverse team that works, right? So therefore, what was interesting to me was, in one project you are a leader, in another project you are a calibration scientist, in another project you are a software programmer. So how do you really look at working in such diverse fields? And at one point you are an individual contributor, at the other mission you are probably a leader. So the principle of interoperability of roles, how do you really prepare for it, and what is important in your in your experience, for people to get ready to actually play these roles as we get into large projects?
Yeah, I would say from what where I am now, because thinking back, how I did it, I don't know. But then, thinking back, I can tell you one thing which I've always felt is that when it becomes a role, when you take up a role, I I tend to identify what are my roles and responsibilities, not as a person, but as that particular part. So I play that part. So it's very important for you to identify that. So it may be like in a committee, if it's a member, you do it. If it's a member secretary, you have to do something else. If it's a chair of the committee, then the way you think through is very different. So I identify that role, and then I identify I mean, as a physics person, I have certain questions. Every time I take up something, I have it in my mind certain questions. So I keep answering those questions, saying that, okay, is it there? Is it correct? Am I doing the right thing? So things like that. But adaptability to from one to the other, um, I think for me as a person, and also having different hats at home and at work, it balances me quite well. And I have elders, I have to talk to elders, I have to talk to younger people. I have to talk to my own age group. It brings out a lot of balance. And I also have people who are very, I mean, like, my parents are vocalists and they're really achievers, and they're very, very down to earth people. So that grounds, puts me down to the ground, saying that nothing doing. So and nobody we don't glorify things. If it's a mistake, it's a mistake. It's set on face. So it's nothing like, you don't fly on something like a small achievement, nothing. So whenever you do something, okay, it's done, now you look forward to more things. So the bar is always raised high. So that kind of an environment you puts you to just do the work and also make sure that you complete what you have taken up. So that is something which I've learned. And actually, in the 30-meter telescope, I was not a programmer. I hardly know any software. I mean, in the sense that I'm a user, but I was the project manager, in the sense that I was heading from the Indian side the observatory control software team. So observatory software team, actually. So, of course, I needed to know certain aspects of software, whether they're heading towards okay or not. But yeah, I was leading the team. It's something which I did for 4 5 years, and I really enjoyed it. But once I took over as the director, I handed over to somebody else.
No, it's interesting. It's interesting. What you say is that you actually pick up things that you become uncomfortable with, and then you then start raising the bar. That seems to be
Correct.
one principle that apologies for saying, it's a programmer kind of a thing. But I think the fact that you picked
No,
a,
no worries. Absolutely no
but
worries.
if you pick up, say, a software programming kind of a leadership role, then you are actually doing something which you are not comfortable,
Absolutely.
but then you learn so much that then you give that back in some other project. So I think that's something that I'm seeing as a common thread in what you're talking, right?
Absolutely, that's right. Because whenever when I do things where there is a learning component there, always take up some things which there's a learning component there. Even if I'm pushed the wall, I have no time left, but I find something is quite interesting and I want to learn that, I will do it.
So one of the other things that I think there was an article that I had read where you were talking about this thing called astrotourism.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about what is astrotourism, what potential does it hold, and how can at least we be a pioneer in that field?
So that's an interesting topic, which I think India is lagging behind. We need to do that, but it has got two. It's a win-win situation basically, because when I give talks to students, particularly when I say that I grew up and I was fascinated by the night sky with seeing so many stars, and nowadays it's just not there. It's just robbed away from us. It is there. Who says it's not there? It is very much there, but it's just robbed away from us. And do you need to light up the sky like this and destroy the night sky? No, it's not required. So the point is, if you go to interior places and you look up where you have to identify pockets where there's no light pollution, and go there and look up at the sky and then say, oh my god, it's so beautiful, it's so pretty. That's something which is like so fascinating. And it tells you that you are one speck out there. Like, it's like, the recent thing of lifting off to the larger, the upper atmosphere, and seeing the earth from above. It's something, it's a very, very different kind of an experience. So here also, looking at so many stars in the sky is a very different experience. Now, that can be done only in certain places. Now, many places you have to identify and go, people go there. And with the digital equipments, people are able to capture the night sky, beautiful pictures. So it's an enjoyment. It's something which is something we should know where we are. And we have observatories, and these observatories we try to maintain dark sky. And the one which we are trying to do right now is in Hanle. Hanle is in Ladakh, UT Ladakh, and this place is an observatory. We set it up in 2000, sorry, 1995 onwards. We started building it up, and 2020 onwards we are operating a 2-meter class telescope there, and it is at a height of 4,500 meters above sea level, and it's a very harsh conditions. oxygen level is about, I think, around half, 50%, 60%. So one has to take care to go there and observe, etc. And the sky is just magic. If you go there in the daytime, it's like you will not see anything, and once the sun sets, it's magic. It's full of stars. So the now, after in the last 4 5 years, people have been traveling there, and the Himalayan region, to capture the sky, enjoy the sky and take pictures, etc. So tourism, and these people over there also, there are a lot of homestays, and they also run the facilities, etc. But we have to save the sky, we cannot let it pollute. But at the same time, tourism also has to happen. So this is a project to empower the community and give them understanding about the sky, give them, train them equipments, and also they will enjoy the sky. Let their guests also enjoy the sky, and we also will be able to do our scientific experiments there. So the astrotourism is to, and also integrate the local things. It is important that we had a lot of stories, a lot of songs, lot of all the traditions which are associated with the nature, and they're all forgotten now. People do, I mean, I don't think the youngsters know when the mango flowers come. Is there are seasons for everything. And then to a lot with the sky also, like, when the Orion comes in the west, when do the Milky Way galaxy comes, Milky Way center comes up in the sky. So when does it happen? So these are some things which should be, you should feel it, but then it's completely lost. So these are kind of efforts with the local understanding of the sky, the stories, the whatever tradition they have, and bring it together so people understand that, and also connect more with the nature and the science at the same time. So this is an effort in that direction.
Right. And speaking of local, the IA has a initiative which I found very fascinating, which is that the IA's initiative where scholars are giving talks in vernacular languages on astrophysics. So I was seeing a post where somebody was giving talks in Kannada and things like that. So I have a two-part question on this, which is number one, what are your thoughts on the public communication of science, and what kind of impact would you like to imagine this kind of discourse is creating in India?
Yeah, see, science communication has taken a big boost recently, and I mean, previously people used to talk, but then suddenly you somehow do not know how to communicate with people. So someone comes and asks me, "How am I doing?" Then I have to take a step back and how do I explain it to you? So it has become like that, and it is not right? Because as someone asked me, "What is that?" You get excited to a certain level. After that, the connect is lost. So that connect we have to rebuild, that we have to bridge that gap. And so these scholars, when they come, they're into the details of everything. Okay, so it is not easy for them to take just lift off and say that, okay, overall, can I explain to a layman how to do that? So we have certain initiatives. To every publication, the student publishers has to write up a story on that, so that anybody can understand that. It is not easy at all. So to, to come up to that level and do it, but it's important. But again, that is only in English. Now how about people? Not everybody will be reading it in English or listening to it in English, etc., right? You'd like to talk in local languages and convey the excitement in that. So it is much more difficult in that. So we are right now, I think we have a good team of people who are working on the outreach and science education. So we have a team called Scope, which works for science communication, outreach, and public education. And today we had a talk on Gujarati, I think. Yeah. So there are passionate people who are willing to talk in various languages, and it's an initiative, and we have started in a few months. It is going really well. If you look at in YouTube also, there are not too many languages, and we also now putting up all this calendars, events, etc. Everything in multiple languages, so people will be able to understand and relate to it. So it's basically, you have created a gap. and that gap has to be bridged at all levels. So if you want to go to an interior Karnataka and want to talk, you should have to talk in Kannada. So it's very important, and also relate to all, people of all ages. That's also important. So yeah, this is an initiative in that direction. Hopefully, it'll go further.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it, and I think I'm a fan of it. Yeah.
Thank you.
As a follow up to this question, when you do it in languages, what impact does it have on on people taking up taking interest in this area, or what impact does it have when you do it in languages?
See, one is awareness itself, and second is I mean, I must also tell you that we are doing it in YouTube right now, but people have to have access to YouTube to listen to this. Okay, but in general, you have to go to the community and then talk to them. Okay, so there are two things to do it. One, awareness is very important, and second is inspiring the young minds who are there in the remote areas. So it is very important. Like people in the cities, information is at their fingertip. There's too much of information at the fingertip right now, because to you have to figure out, you have to be smart enough to sort out what is you need and to what you don't need, right? But I think the younger generation is smart enough. The in the on the other hand, it is important to accept everybody the opportunity, the availability of resources across, or at least awareness that such a thing is available for them, educating them, and also say that, showing them a roadmap that this is possible, how you can do it. So engaging in the conversation, so that has helped. So we also run several things in the near villages near the observatory in Handley, where the students of basically the community over there. What happens is, there are villages are being established now, but since the grazing area keeps changing as a throughout the year, gets frozen, etc. Nomads, they actually take their cattle or their grazing sheep, etc., and move around. So they're not staying in one place as such. The groups of nomads. Now, in the last few years, they're trying to settle down. But what they do is, the children don't get educated. So there are many schools where they leave the children behind, and the elderly people move around with their, um, sheep. So we try to educate them, the students, and then give them roadmap, etc. That's what we're trying to do there.
Given that you've achieved so much, one question that I wanted to ask you is, obviously, a lot of people look up to you, and therefore, what are the great qualities a mentor should have? And who are the mentors for you who changed your life and career?
Okay, let me first answer the first one, the mentors who changed my path. There are a few of them. First one is a teacher. Actually, he was a retired teacher. He was giving tuitions in the village where I grew up. We used to call him Murthy sir. Okay, so he was my neighbor, and I clearly remember, um, till fourth standard I was studying in Malayalam medium, and fifth standard my father realized that, okay, maybe you should change to English medium, because it is important for your growth and things like that. My parents are both musicians, but then he said, no, 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 it's important that you move to English medium. I said, fine, I'll do it. But then I didn't know the consequences. Just going into English medium and reading everything in English, I had no idea what's going on. So the only thing which I could survive was mathematics. And probably Hindi. Nothing else I could survive. So I was kind of devastated. I was stopping the class till fourth and fifth. I am now nowhere. What is going on? So then he called up and said, no, 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 it's the right move. Just hang on. You will work hard. And then he helped me with certain things. And I was also very scared of that person, but he helped me, and then I kind of stabilized. And that was one instinct where he supported me. And second is, he used to give tuitions to 10th standard. So I ended up enrolled in his tuition class. I studied in a government school, I should say that. And it's a girls' government school where the divisions used to go till MNOP. Yeah, so a large number of students. So very, very large number of students. They had only one division for English. So there's a lot of girl students, but it's a government school. I think it's one of the largest schools in Kerala to with the largest number of girl students appearing for 10th exams. So it was such a school. So I because this okay, the teaching is average in school, you'll have to learn separately. So it was happening, but he was really passionate about things. He will scream at you and shout at you for making a mistake. It's not because of anything else. He knows that you can do it, but you're not able to do it, and he's not able to control it. He was really passionate about it. So when somebody does good, he used to be very happy about it. So so we worked hard, and then I think I did well in 10th. And then the next person was that and in when I was doing in the degree program, sorry, in the college, I had two options: one to proceed the music way or to take up science. And I always, it used to go up and down all the time. So I wasn't sure whether to continue science, or I have the capacity to continue in science, or only continue in music. So sometimes when you're not very things are not going well, or you're not having any interesting thing happening, so the interest kinds of comes down. So one of his lecturers in BSc, I think, was that he actually challenged our thinking. Like, in one of the thing is like, when you have an experiment to be conducted, and we copy the experiment picture from the guide to the records, right? So that's what we do. If we copy it exactly, he will shout at us saying that nothing doing. Just because that guy has drawn like that, you're drawing exactly like this. You have to use your way of doing it. For that matter, we had a potentiometer which is 10 meter. The thing will draw four lines. It is like symbolic. So we all draw four lines. He said, either one line or you draw 10 lines. Why are you drawing four? So, like that, he used to question. So that really kicked us. Then we actually, every time you do it, you think about it and then you do it. So that was, his name is Sudarshan sir. I think he passed away a few years back, but he was he was not a great teacher, but then he drove us in this way to think about it. That is how I realized that physics is interesting, because till then nobody stood my excitement and challenge to do it. So that was very challenging. Then I said, nothing doing, I'm going to moving forward. So he was a really turning point. The thing about when I mentor students is, what I look for is that I have mentored a lot of students. As you noticed earlier, I also have to learn. So every student, I make sure that the student learns, and I also learn something from the student and from the project. Number one. Two, each one is different. Each one has a different capacity, different aptitude, different way of doing things, handling things. It is important as a mentor to identify that and nurture it. So, and give important to identify where they need support and give that support. So for me, that is the most. If for a PhD students, first 1 year I do that, and make sure that they run the show next. So I have to know what exactly are their things. So I learn from them, and this is how they are, and then they support them. And I do not use the same yardstick for everybody. Each one is different. Each one has different capability. I think probably I learned it from my kids. Both are very different. I have two kids, and they are very different. I can't use the same thing for approach for both. So yeah.
So we're coming to some closing questions. So I'll ask the first question. What does the word successful mean to you?
Um, yeah, I don't know. I think that's a very question which will have different answers depending upon when you ask a person during their career or during their life. But as of now, I would say that as long as I continue to do what I want to do in my life, and I get I mean I get the resources and things like that done. So I'm as long as I can do that, I'm very happy. And that is what is success about, because I have identified my passion, identified it, and I'm able to pursue it and continue doing it and excel at it. So that I consider it as passion. Sorry, success.
Yeah. My next question is, what are some of the books that have influenced you the most over the course of your life and career?
I can't quite answer that question, but there are certain profoundness which has hit me. Gore Vidal's creations, that is something which is it's an amazing book. It talks about all the history. Actually, it's a novel, but then the kind of information flows through it is amazing. But I also should tell you one more thing, that I try to not to read long books but short things, but I learn something from it. Whatever I learn, I have to learn something, carry with me something from it. Even a conversation, I want to carry something from it. So that, and not able to, I don't normally read big books. I read small books, and I read Sudhamurthy's stories. They have a lot of takeaways.
My next question is, if you were to give advice, say three or four things, to an 18-year-old at a university, what are the three pieces of advice that you would give?
um, One is, all topics are interesting. It just, you need to find out what interests you, and identify your passion and work hard. There is no escape route. Hard work is the sole answer. Everybody is working hard. So you have to work hard, be passionate about it, and challenge yourself. Hard work is important, challenge yourself. Once you start feeling comfortable and you are able to do it, that means you're not challenged. So find something which will challenge you.
Great. My next question is, if you could invite four guests for your dream dinner, who would they be and why?
Uh, I would have one by one, because I would not be able to talk to everyone together. So one is Sudhamurthy. I think she's a very, very inspiring person, very simple and very inspiring person. So I really, I'd like to have to talk to her. And one person from uh, uh, music is, if I could talk to Shammangudi Srinivas Iyer, I would have done it. He's an amazing singer. And and in science, yeah, again, if I could talk to CV Raman at some time, so that would have been nice to talk to him to figure out how things worked. So yeah.
Great. What is one best piece of advice someone has ever given you?
Two things I would say. One is my dad. It's not an advice. He just does things like he sings every day in the evening for the last few years, but otherwise he sings at home. As a child, he used to sing, get up in the morning and sings. He will sing. He's not. He's a teacher. He's not a concert guy. But then he would sing. He would keep singing. Okay. If I do, I play with him. I practice with him. And nowadays I'm not able to do that. But for a lot of years, I used to sit with him and practice. If I don't practice with him, he'll say, "Today gone, one day gone." That's it. That's so much in it. That particular statement. Okay, it basically says that the time lost, you can't take it back. Whatever you do, you can't take back. So you have to make sure what you do with your time. If it is lost, 1 hour lost, you gone, you can't take it back. So decide. So that puts a lot of pressure on you. Okay, you have to decide what do you want to do. You are you lost 1 hour, so it drives me crazy. And second thing is, again, Sudhamurthy's saying, I don't quite remember what exactly it is, but then it says that whatever situation it is, you may be in a disadvantageous situation, but identify the advantage of that and make use of it. So whatever situation, it may be disadvantages to you, but then try to identify what is the best what you can do at that time and take advantage of that. That situation may not arise, and that vantage point we will not get. So I think these two are quite a bit of entwined into my the way I do things.
My next question to you is what is something that you believe in that nobody else agrees with you on?
Hmm. Mm, that's quite difficult. See, one sometimes I maybe sometimes I mean it's a combination of discipline and planning. It's not agree, but people find it a bit hard to cope up with.
So,
So
discipline and planning is it?
yeah, it's execute. You say if I want to do some things, even if I just go to kitchen and cook something, even before that I would have planned what time I will do, what I will. I mean, it's in the mind I would have done it, and then I stick to that, and that becomes a bit of a. It's good. I'm not saying people don't agree to it, but it's yeah. And sometimes you're on a vacation and you start planning, and what do you mean? You should be able to do what do you want? Why do you want to plan it? So, so, but that's something which is probably I'm not able to let go of it.
You kind of heard ContraMinds, you've listened. That's what you told me. So my
Yeah,
last question really is, who's a guest that you would like to see featured in ContraMinds?
you could. I don't know, but it'll be nice to listen to uh, Kasturi Rangan.
Okay,
He has written a book recently on space. I think it's a space physics. I forgot the title, but then I've been reading through it. It's a lot of intense stuff. So, and he has touched a lot of different aspects. For a person to wear a lot of different hats and at the top, it's not easy. So it'll be nice to I don't know, but it'll be good to hear. And also there are like what you have done in the previous one. It was very nice on the knowledge management in NASA. You could talk to someone in ISRO as well. uh, I mean, Kasurangan was there, but then you could also talk to Kiran Kumar, because that'll bring out something which is not known to other people. So how things work, that'll be nice, I think.
great. Thanks a lot. It was a absolutely fantastic conversation. More importantly, I think you touched upon so many soft things, which I think we miss most often because some conversations are very transactional. I think there's a checklist of things that people say, but many of the points that you made uh, were very, very soft things, but they have a hard impact on what it does to you and what it does when you really think about it. Thank you, and I quite enjoyed what you said, and I have learned a lot of things out of this conversation.
Thank you so much for your
Yeah,
time.
thank you so much. Yeah, it was nice talking to you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode. For selected links and detailed show notes, visit www.contraminds.com/blog. Follow ContraMinds on social media and let us know who you would like to see next on the podcast. If you're listening to ContraMinds on Apple Podcasts, do share your comments and give us a rating. We are keen to know what you're thinking. ContraMinds is also on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and stay up to date on all our releases. Thanks for listening and stay safe.